Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Wednesday, July the 14th. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is Cameron Talbot. Cameron, how are things going?
Yeah, everything's good, thank you. How are you?
I'm just fine. And you're joining me from across the pond, as I hear we say.
Yeah, I've heard that term. It's currently 1:34 in the morning on Thursday, the 15th of July. So technically we're on 2 different days. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, everything's good over here. Well, we're doing fine.
Good. So what part of England are you in? Not that I know England all that
Oh
well,
yeah,
but
yeah. Right. How can I describe? I'm trying to think of a place that you might know. Um, I'm basically about 2 hours north of London.
okay.
Yeah, we're a little bit up.
Gotcha. Okay. So before we get into talking about stuff, have you been able to go to any of the NFL games when they played them in London?
You would be surprised how difficult it is to get tickets.
Oh, I
It,
bet. It's got to
it's
be tough, huh?
chaos. But once again, we tried this year, and if we don't get it this year, then we try next year, and we keep going.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. Cause you get it's only one game a year, right? One game.
I think it was one, and now it's two because basically what they did was they played one game a year at Wembley, and then they built another stadium, which isn't NFL exclusive, but like there was quite a big purpose of we're gonna do another NFL game here, so now they moved it to two.
Okay, so that gives you a little better chance.
Yeah, a little bit more leeway to work with, but we'll see.
Excellent.
It's still going to be crazy.
Well, good luck with that. Hope it works out for you here before long. So we're going to talk some Browns, but before we do, we're going to talk about what we're drinking tonight and our Blitz beverages. And you're the guest, and I know it's late. You said 1:30,
Yeah.
1:30 on Thursday morning where you are. So what are you drinking to help keep you awake right now?
We've got two drinks open right now. Actually, we've got it's a mango energy drink called a Mango Loco, which is quite popular over here. You'll find it in basically any usual corner shop or supermarket store, whatever. And then the main drink that we've got is a Pepsi Max, which is basically like our version of effectively a Diet Pepsi.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was like double caffeine or something.
I think there is actually a little bit more caffeine in it than usual. So, I mean, they could advertise it as that, but we do actually have our own extra caffeine version.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you got enough there to make it through the show at least. It shouldn't be a problem, huh?
We're settled.
Yeah, well, I am drinking a summertime seedless watermelon hopped sour by Duclaw Brewing. And I don't know, Cameron. Apparently last time I went out and bought some beer, I had a few beers, and for some reason I bought all these fruity beers. And I don't usually drink a lot of fruity beers, but some of these just looked interesting. So I bought like 6 or 8 of these different beers with all this fruit in them. But Duclaw is a really good brewery, and I like a lot of their beers. So I didn't realize this was by Duclaw until I was sitting down to open it up, and it's got a nice flavor. I thought it was going to taste like watermelon juice and really light and everything. It's a little more complex, so you can taste the watermelon, but the sour really comes through probably more than the watermelon. And if you like sours, the watermelon kind of takes a little bit of the edge off the sour, but you can still taste the beer flavor too. So I think they did a nice job with this.
Watermelon is definitely a new one. I've heard of a lot of different types of, maybe extravagant is the wrong word, but different flavored beers. I've never heard of watermelon.
Well, you're helping me out here because I'm thinking that's probably why I bought it. Because I saw it and I thought, watermelon, I think I got to try that.
It's new.
Yeah.
First time for everything.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. I'm not going to drink a ton of these fruity beers because it's just not what I normally do. But summertime, I like trying all these different things. So it won't be long. It'll start getting cool again, and I'll go back to the regular beers and some darker beers and things. But for right now, this is a pretty enjoyable brew. I'm pretty happy with it.
Bit of a summer tropical feel.
Yeah, definitely. So Cameron, we like to give our guests a chance to talk about their journey as a Browns fan, and being that you're in England, I imagine your choice to be a Browns fan or how you became a Browns fan might be more interesting than some of us, say, who were born in Cleveland. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk about how this happened. Maybe some highlights of your fandom and following the Browns, and just kind of where you are as a Browns fan right now.
Okay, right. Well, over here in England, there's quite a big stereotype about American football that why is it called American football? They just use their hands. And it's not a real sport. They just glorified rugby players with big pads on. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to be one of them. I used to not really understand it. Used to think that it didn't really mean anything. Like they all just run around trying to hit each other. Like you may as well just watch UFC. But then the more and more you get into it and you start to study the game and you start to understand the technical side, it just drew me in. And I can't remember the day it was. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to follow this. But I can remember the day that I was like, yeah, it's the Browns. And like with a lot of people over here, it's, oh, I'm a Patriots fan. Yeah, Tom Brady. And you like Super Bowls. Whereas with me, it was during the 1-31 period, so you can't really say that. It was. I'm trying to think of the exact. I don't know if I can remember the exact game, but I remember I just switched on because we have our provider over here called Sky Sports. Obviously, I know over there you've got Fox, NBC, ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar with all the other ones, but we've got Sky Sports who do our coverage over here, and it was one of the only games of the year that I remember that the Browns were on, our actual because we only get one main TV slot a week when it comes to the 1 o'clock games here, which is a 6 o'clock game over here. They only televise one, and we get Red Zone, and it was the Browns that were on that one game a year because obviously when we were awful, we weren't exactly a main priority for TV.
Right.
And I remember it was one game where we were actually competitive, and you see this little underdog team that are trying to fight with everything that they've got, and they were struggling. But I can't remember the game, but we nearly got there. We were only about a touchdown behind. I might have to try and find the game. I'm like, yeah, I like this team, and from there I just fell in love with it. That was a good about 4.5 years ago now.
Well, you had some losing after that, but yeah, pretty quick turnaround on the starting to see a little bit of payoff already, huh?
Yeah. I don't claim to have been through the many years of hurt like everyone else. I went through about a year, but hey, interest never wavered, and I only gained more and more love for the sport and the team as a whole, because obviously I'm still learning. There's still a lot that I don't know, and that's why it excites me, because I'm not afraid to admit this, why I love American football, or what you guys will call soccer, is my main sport, and I know everything about that. So it was almost exciting to me trying to learn a new sport and trying to gain as much knowledge as I know about that one.
Well, the thing about football here is that even those of us, and there are plenty of guys that know way more about football than I do, but even those of us that feel like we've watched this for years and years and years and years, we're still learning stuff all the time. And even when you do think you know everything, they make rule changes every single season that you have to learn.
Yep.
Just to make sure that you're paying attention. Oh, no, that's not a catch now. We've changed what a catch is, and we've changed what, different yardage on different penalties and things like this. And they do it all the time, and rules on kickoffs and everything. So yeah, you have to pay attention if you want to keep up with football.
I remember when I started getting into college football a little bit, and I remember I'm like, well, in the NFL, if he catches the ball, he's got to have 2 feet inside the white lines. When he does it in college, he's only got to have 1. How does that make sense?
Yeah, you would think that they would at least try to make the same rules.
Yeah,
it's funny.
You pick it up slowly. There's still a hell of a lot to learn, but that excites me. I like it.
Yeah. So was there a player or players early on that caught your eye who you liked, who helped draw you to the Browns? Was it players or was it just the whole team?
It was the whole team, and I'm not gonna lie, that even though everyone used to hate the old jerseys, I actually didn't mind them, even though they had Cleveland written across the front in huge letters.
Yeah.
I didn't mind them because I thought they were different compared to what everyone else had. So I'm like, yeah, I like this. And I don't think there was a player in general, because none of them were particularly great apart from fucking the offensive line back then. I can't remember the quarterback. Was it? No, it weren't just Sean Kaiser. That was the second season. Yeah, I can't actually remember a player as that one that just attracted me.
Okay.
There was probably a few players back at the time, none of which are probably on the team now.
Yeah, they've kind of turned things over since 4.5 years ago. There aren't a whole heck of a lot of guys left since then.
Yeah. So that good.
Yeah, I think people like the uniforms now because they're more like they were back, 20, 30 years ago.
Much prefer these ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But that's cool. It's kind of cool how you just kind of picked them based on the way you saw them play. And probably that they were a bit of an underdog too. I think that's what people who have started to follow them within the last 5-10 years, I think that's a kind of a common thread that they wanted to root for an underdog. And in that way, that kind of puts you in with the rest of us who have been following them for a long time, because we've stuck with a team who was an underdog and just wanted to see him do well. And now hopefully we'll all start to enjoy the team. They obviously had a nice season last year, but we're hoping for more this year. So
yeah, let's hope we don't have to be an underdog for much longer, even though we're still getting doubted everywhere.
Yeah.
So I've seen people make graphics and stuff saying that we're not even going to make the playoffs this year, and it just makes me laugh. It could be close, but don't just rule us out already.
It's funny. Yeah, I'm almost to the point where I don't even look at that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I try, but some of it still draws me in.
And the Browns obviously have, and some people have said the Browns have the best roster in the NFL. I don't know. That's hard to say, because I think you have to weight certain possessions and everything, and I think the Browns, have spots where guys have to come in and prove, things like on defense. I think they've brought a lot of really nice players in on defense, but we got to see them play together and got to see guys stay healthy, hopefully, for a bit. So I know the defense is going to improve, but is this going to be a top defense? Well, we still got to see them play. I'm very optimistic, but I'm not willing to say that this defense is going to be a top 5 or 10 defense until we see them out there playing.
Joe Woods has still got a lot to show me yet before I'm convinced.
Well, I have confidence in him, but yeah, I mean, last season he really didn't have the pieces, so now he's got the pieces. Now he's got to produce. That's pretty much that simple.
We've got Grant Delpit back. We've paid out big money for John Johnson. We've got Jadeveon Clowney, Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell back on the defense. I remember he got drafted by the Seahawks originally, and he spent some time out. We've got him. There's definitely some other players that I'm forgetting. Anthony Walker.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Oh, there's probably someone else I'm forgetting.
Well, the rookies, JOK and
Andrew Billings coming back from his opt-out.
Yeah, Billings. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of pieces. You have to see who shows up, especially on the defensive line. You got to see how these guys come in, because there's a lot of guys fighting for a few spots on the defensive line.
I don't know. I don't know if I like the way that we've set up the defensive line, though, if I'm being completely honest. I feel like we've gone too pass rush heavy. And I feel like it might backfire. Because we've got, obviously, Miles can do anything. Jadeveon Clowney's probably the only one who I'd say who's got a run defense speciality, and he's on the edge. I feel like when it comes to defensive tackle, you've got Malik Jackson and Andrew Billings, who are two pass rushing defensive tackles.
Yeah.
I just feel like teams are going to recognise that, and they're going to be able to scheme around us because they realise we're going to be too over aggressive on snaps, and we're not going to wait. Like, we just need to.
The Browns are going to have to adjust if that happens. These guys are going to have to play the run. I mean, Clowney's good, obviously good against the run. So, and I think they're going to have to look at this stable of defensive tackles they have, and if that's what they need to fill is DTs who can come in and stop the run, then those guys are going to keep. And I mean, they've got a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, we've got so many defensive tackles at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know, there's like 5 guys fighting for a couple spots probably on that defensive, at defensive tackle. So we'll see what happens.
The decision to cut Sheldon Richardson?
What I make of it?
Yeah.
I mean, it caught me a little off guard. I thought they would keep him for this season, but it kind of makes sense too, and especially when you look at all the defensive tackles they have. I mean, he's obviously a very good player, but especially after the draft, when they added another defensive tackle, and then they sign all these other guys, they must. I think with this team, it's it really is starting to come down to money, and they're trying to be smart with the money, and the way that Richardson makes the most sense is probably if they extend somebody, this year, before the season even starts. Then it looks like they cleared that money. Of course, there's some guys still out there that they could potentially sign too. Probably won't be for real big money, but I think they wanted the flexibility with letting him go. And most of these guys they brought in, they're not costing them anything like that.
You were paying $11 million and you weren't getting $11 million in production. Like, it was.
Well, it's true. That's true. Yeah.
It's got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, the days of paying top dollar for a guy in Cleveland, they should be pretty much over at this point, because guys want to come here and play.
Yeah.
So, well, let's look at and talk about the expectations for this season, because the expectations for this season are very high, Cameron.
Right.
So I want to know where you stand on your expectations for this team and kind of how you're looking at things for this team, short term versus long term. And do you see, or are you concerned about a window with this team?
Go ahead. A window doesn't concern me necessarily, because I feel like as long as we make the extensions in the short term, then the window stays open for a lot longer, and we have the money and the flexibility to make the extensions.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to expectations for the season, short term, I want to see those extensions being made. Maybe not quite Baker yet, because we've still got another 2 years, but sure, that has to like just do that now. Like, do it tomorrow. Like, Teller, it's a funny one. I feel like if you keep Teller, you're going to lose someone else. And as ruthless as it sounds, I would be prepared to do that because I feel like he's that good. Who else needs extending?
Extending guys? Yeah, Denzel Ward is another guy.
But Denzel's another one like Baker because obviously same draft 2018. We've got another 2 years if you include the option, so there is a little bit more room to work with on that one. But you don't want to leave it too long because you don't want another corner to get a huge deal and the price goes up even further. So back to expectations. I want to see more cohesion on the defensive end. Like Joe Woods didn't have the pieces last year. You're correct. He's got the pieces now. We need to see more. You've got a returning Grant Delpit. You've got John Johnson, Troy Hill on the back end. You've got all the defensive line depth that we discussed about. The linebacking core's improved. It's time to make this step up. We can't be afford to having to score like 49 points like we did away at the Cowboys last year purely because the defense couldn't stand up in the second half. We can't. If you're a top team, you don't have to do that, and it's not fair on the offense to keep having to compensate for the defense. So I need to see more defensive cohesion early. Talking the first 4 or 5 games. Long term, if we're talking within the boundaries of the season, I want ideally Nick Chubb to have just an incredible season. I want him to like do Derrick Henry-esque numbers, but I don't know if that's quite possible in the offense that we run it because it's not tight and like you run it more than you throw it. I want Baker to start to. Well, no, he is comfortable in the offense, but you can never be too comfortable in that sort of offense for the play action rollout system. I want a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. back. Ideally, if we are going to keep him, I hope if we've made that decision that we are going to keep him, then we go all in on him, give him everything you need.
I think he's going to be here this season. I don't really think there's much doubt about that.
I know, but you still, and I know there's not much to it, but you still see people like, oh, top 5 Odell trade destinations. I'm like, and you never know. You never know.
People are bored right now. Honestly, I think people are. Obviously, it's fun to talk about the Browns, but I think people are almost to a point where they're tired of talking about some of this stuff, and they just want to see football because they can see and feel that this team is good enough and this team will be ready, and they're like, just let's get on with this. So they're just pulling crap out of the bag to write about.
True.
And it's no offense to guys. I've been in that position. I've written articles like that. I'm not trying to say anybody's not doing a good job.
When it comes to like an overall like record for the season, honestly, just improve, because that shows more to me. If you even just improve by a game on a much harder schedule than last year, that shows me a lot that, one, you're able to beat the tough teams when we end up in the when we get into the deep depth of the playoffs. Because obviously we beat the Steelers last year. We couldn't beat KC. We'll see about that week 1. Obviously.
Yeah. So you're saying the Browns were regular season. The Browns were 11-5 last year. So an improvement in the 17 game would be 12-5.
Yeah, I think 12-5, 13-4. I'm happy with either of those because obviously I know we've got a tougher schedule. I know that we are a better team than the Steelers, but I'd probably still expect us to split with them because it's just that sort of game that you never know what's going to happen. Baltimore, probably another split. Then we've got to go away to the Packers on Christmas Day. That's never going to be an easy game.
Yeah, there's some tough games.
KC week 1, that's 50-50, and you can always expect to a stupid loss which should never happen, like the Jets last year or the Raiders at home. You've always got to throw one of them in there. So
let's talk. I think if we're looking at the division, I would be surprised if the team that the Browns aren't, competing most with for the division title is the Ravens. I hate to ever count the Steelers out because the Steelers find a way a lot of times. Okay, so I'm not saying that they won't do anything, but I just feel like they've lost pieces. They're still aging. So if it's me and I'm on the Browns, I'm most concerned about the Ravens. Do you think teams are starting to solve the Lamar Jackson puzzle a bit?
No, but I feel like as if the Browns are going to have to work that one out themselves, and that's why I feel like I was so happy with the JOK pick, because I feel like he could almost be a big piece to that puzzle, because you've got a fast, versatile linebacker / safety hybrid who, when we play the Ravens, you can literally almost put him in the game as a Lamar Jackson spy. He can just track sideline to sideline, and he's got the speed to do it.
I'm with you, and I don't even care how much JOK plays the rest of the season as a rookie. I'm sure he's going to play and find his spots, and get worked in. But I think he's going to play a ton against the Ravens, and I think he's going to be really big against Lamar. So, assuming that other teams are, I really don't know, because you see in the playoffs, teams seem to do better against Lamar, and teams find a way to, at least they're starting to take him out of the game at key times. I'm not saying that's going to happen this season. I mean, he still puts up huge numbers all the time, but what do you expect out of the Ravens this year? As far as a record, if you had to just kind of pick a number out of the sky, what kind of a win total? And I assume their schedule's pretty close to the Browns. And how hard it is. How many wins do you think they put up comfortably?
Honestly, I feel like the Ravens and Browns are going to be separated probably by our last game. Like, literally, whichever one of us doesn't get 13-4, the other one is going to get 12-5. Like, it's going to be that close.
Yeah. I'd be shocked if the Ravens didn't win at least 11 games. The Steelers, I have no idea if the Steelers will win 3 games or 11 games this year. Yeah, I have no idea.
For as bad as we all say the Steelers are, and I do think that they are a bad team, they've not had a single losing season under Mike Tomlin, and I just don't think that's going to change, even if they go like 9-8.
No, I'm with you. I've looked at the history of the Steelers enough times to know that this team, even if they do have a down season, they will go 9-8 this year, and then they will be back to winning 12 games next year somehow.
I just don't feel as if they're ever going to be an elite team while Roethlisberger's still at quarterback. I just don't see it.
I think you're probably right. I think he's definitely, everybody knows he's on the back end, but he's definitely not the same player anymore. The Browns kind of had their way with him.
4 interceptions in a playoff game against a very average defense. Like, it wasn't anything special, that defense.
No, imagine what a good defense would have done against them.
Yeah. Like, you got picked off by Sone Takitaki.
That was a great play.
I swear, he got picked off by Port Augustine on the defensive line. It was, what was the second? Sheldrick Redwine. Like, these.
Yeah, honestly, those are guys who. I think Taki's going to be on the team this year, but some of those other guys, they're fighting for spots this year.
Yeah, I like Sony Takitaki. I feel like he's a great special teams player, and he's a good depth option.
I think he's going to be on the team this year, definitely. But yeah, I mean, Redwine's fighting for a spot, and Port Augustine's he's got an uphill climb in front of him, probably. So we'll see.
Racking
definitely.
my brains on who the first interception was now. I know there was 4.
Yeah.
I know there
We
was
should
4.
know this. This is Browns history, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, so I just want to talk real quick about about an article that Sam Penix wrote. This article, and he just said the article. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I just wrote down the names, and his the title of the article is 5 Future Hall of Famers on the Browns, and
Interesting.
yeah, so I want to see if you agree with these choices, and some of this is contingent upon the way I think really all 5 of these are contingent upon what these guys do the rest of their careers. But his thought is that these guys all have a shot at making the Hall of Fame, and I think unless you've watched sports for a long time, you really don't realize what the Hall of Fame really is. You think of the Hall of Fame as these old guys who are either dead or gone or played back in the 1950s. And a lot of times you don't realize that you're watching some of them play.
Legacy.
Yeah. So, I mean, we knew we were watching when Joe Thomas was playing. We knew we were watching a Hall of Famer because he looked like a Hall of Famer by his second season. Okay, but
I only got 1 year of Joe Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not always the case. Okay, a lot of guys, it's a little more subtle to figure out who a Hall of Famer is, so you don't realize it. But there's a percentage of guys in the league right now who are going to be in the Hall of Fame someday, and unless you really think about it and look at it, you're going to miss and not realize that you're watching some of these guys. So the guys he listed. And again, these guys aren't all going to make the Hall of Fame, but they all have a shot, and it depends what they do the rest of their careers, how long they play, and their level of play. But the first one he said is Odell Beckham Jr. I think he's put up huge numbers already. I think he needs some more healthy seasons because it's not easy to get into the Hall of Fame as a wide receiver.
Agreed, but I feel like because of the character that he is, because he's so outlandish, I feel like he could almost get. I'm not getting his way solely from that, but his personality could almost draw him towards it slightly further than his numbers should suggest.
It helps. It really does help, guys. And guys who have played in a place like New York, they have an edge, and the personality definitely gives him an edge. I mean, you look at. If you look at any of the Hall of Fames, look at I always think of baseball and Billy Martin being in the Hall of Fame. Is he really a Hall of Famer? I don't know, but he was outlandish and he played in New York and he managed in New York for a while. Sure, he's a Hall of Famer. Put him in. Okay, I think you're exactly right. It's the same with OBJ. He definitely has a leg up, and I think if he finishes his career on a strong foot, I think he's probably got a great shot at being a Hall of Famer. Next one was Jarvis Landry.
No.
Well, you say no. He's got big numbers and he's still pretty young. So I think with Jarvis, it's probably a question of longevity, how long he plays, and if he keeps putting up numbers. Jarvis, it's going to depend. I mean, there are a lot of wide receivers now who have put up really big numbers, and some guys who still haven't gotten in. So I think with Jarvis, he'd be kind of an under the radar guy. I think he would need probably a championship or two, plus plus he would probably have to play into his probably late 30s, to get in. That'd be my thought.
No, because you could ask an average NFL fan to write a list of their top 20 wide receivers, and let's say you ask 50 people to do that. I guarantee that a maximum of 10 have Jarvis Landry in their top 20.
Top 20? You're probably right. Well, especially right now with him on the Browns, because he's not thought of as a number one guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. So from there, he went to offensive line, and he named Jack Conklin and Joel Bitonio. Conklin's still really young, and he's got some All-Pros under his belt. Bitonio doesn't have the All-Pros, but he's got some Pro Bowls. I don't think either one of these guys gets a lot of accolades league-wide, and gets their name brought up as a great player. But they're both putting together really, really solid careers. So offensive lineman, again, it's kind of a crapshoot almost to get into the Hall of Fame. You almost have to be a big name as an offensive lineman to get into. You have to be a known guy, it seems like. So with a lot of I would say Pro Bowls, but they don't even look so much at Pro Bowls anymore. It's the All Pros and things like that. So
Conklin, maybe. Bitonio, I'm gonna go no. Not because they don't deserve it necessarily, purely because they don't have the notoriety.
Yeah, I would say Conklin probably has a better shot because he's got All Pros versus Pro Bowls. And I think you're right, and he's younger.
Because of the amount of money that he's going to attract at the end of his 3-year deal, which we're already 1 year into, I think it's fair to say he's probably not going to spend the entirety of his career in Cleveland.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would say that's probably true. That's probably true. The Browns will probably find a way to bring somebody else out to play right tackle.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he signs an extension and is here for maybe another 4 or 5 years yet. But when he reaches his prime, like his early 30s, I think we probably won't be able. But we might be able to pay him, but I feel like he'd probably just attract too much money from elsewhere and we'd walk away.
Yeah, his offensive line's tricky. I mean, because you're right. A lot of these other positions, guys are about done around 30. Wide receivers and running backs and a lot of other spots, corners, things like that. These guys are winding down. They're ready to be cut and go home, or age 30. And offensive linemen, you're right. A lot of them are hitting their prime at 30, 31, 32, and some of the best ones play until their late 30s.
You see Andrew Whitworth for the Rams, obviously. I know he got injured at the back end of last year. How old is he, like 39? And he's still got another year on his deal.
Yeah, the Bengals gave up on him a long time ago, and I mean, imagine how much, not that he would have gotten them anywhere, but the Bengals let him go 4 or 5 years ago. He went to the Rams, and I mean, he's been a great player for him. So yeah, it's definitely Conklin definitely has a long time to play. Assuming that he stays healthy. I think that's the key for offensive linemen. If things stay healthy, they can play for close to 20 years. If they're healthy, and they just keep.
That Joe had at the back end of his career. Obviously, I know he had the huge, 10,300 consecutive snaps played, and then things just started going wrong all over the place.
Who's that?
Joe Thomas.
Yeah, Joe. Well, I mean, Joe was doing fine until he had that injury.
Yeah,
and then he was done.
Yeah.
He just didn't come back after that injury. So
just like that.
Yep. I'm sure. I think he could have come back if he wanted to. I think he rehabbed that injury, and
he had nothing left to prove.
It was just time for him. So that's 4 of the 5, and the 5th one you can probably guess who the 5th future Hall of Famer on the Browns would be. It's a bit of a stretch because he hasn't played a lot of games yet, and he plays on the defensive side of the ball.
That's not who I was thinking. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. No, I know who it is now.
Yeah, it'd be Myles Garrett. Yeah.
I was thinking Nick Chubb. But
well, he didn't even name Nick Chubb.
I think that's crazy.
Well, Nick Chubb, and I don't have his stats up right in front of me right now, but Nick Chubb, with another big season or two, he's got a chance to just blow by some guys on the Browns all-time rushing list. Just amazing players. So I'm with you there. Nick Chubb. If Nick Chubb keeps playing for a long time, I think he's got a great chance to make the Hall of Fame. In the article, he mentioned Myles Garrett. And Myles obviously has a great shot at the Hall of Fame if he keeps playing like he plays, and especially if he can play some seasons where he can play more games. He said in his article, which I was not aware of, that that Myles has the second highest sack per game percentage of any player. Now, this, of course, would be since sacks were recorded, which is in the what do I want to say, the late, or the this would be the early 80s, I think, is when they started tracking sacks, or maybe, somewhere around 1980, might be the late 70s, early 80s. So there could be guys before that had more sacks, but they weren't even counting them back then. So Myles has the second highest rate out of anybody who's played the game, behind Reggie White.
Yeah, I was thinking Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, I would bet that Lawrence Taylor is probably in the top 5 on that list too.
Yeah.
But Myles hasn't played a ton of games yet. He just hasn't.
True.
So give him, nothing would be better than to see Myles just play the next 3-4 seasons and just be out there every game and just see what he can do.
He wasn't helped back end of last year because obviously he was playing incredibly for like the first 10 games. Then he gets COVID. He's out for 2 games, but then he has to deal with the lingering after effects for like the remaining 5-6 games that we've got, and he's nowhere near full strength. Just completely depleted. Like he was using.
It was tough. It was hard to watch because he was sucking air, and you could see he was really trying and really wanting to be out there and everything. But yeah, I mean, he had to take plays off, and he wasn't himself, and it cut into his production. But let's just hope that between the additional guys on the line and him being healthy, that he can just go out there and play this year, and play, if not 17 games, pretty darn close to it. And let's just see what he can do.
Let's hope so.
So 2020 was a nice season for the Browns. And in your mind, what kind of latitude did that buy Stefanski, Barry, and DePodesta with the Browns? And I know this is a stupid thing to be talking about, but I'm looking at this from Haslam's perspective.
I feel like it gives them quite a bit. DePodesta, I feel like it probably gives the most to DePodesta out of the 3 of them, because it just almost shows he was right all along, because he wanted Stefanski last year when we went for Kitchens instead. And like, even if you want to go as far back to the Hugh Jackson hire, he wanted McDermott, the Bills coach, instead of Hugh Jackson. And now look where McDermott shows that maybe this guy does know what he's talking about.
That would have been an okay hire too. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe this guy does know what he's talking about. Maybe let's give him a chance. When it comes to Stefanski and Barry, I mean, to win NFL Coach of the Year, a rookie's virtually unheard of. So I feel like that shows that you're doing something right. And Barry he hasn't put a foot wrong, and it doesn't look like he's going to make like a foot wrong regardless of no matter what he does. He just seems like the type of guy that even if he does make a slightly bad choice, it'd still almost work out somehow. Maybe not in
the
way that you intended, but I just don't see how the man can do much wrong at the minute, and I hope it stays that way. So to answer your original question, I feel like it's given all 3 of them a good couple of years, but probably DePodesta the most.
Yeah, so you kind of feel like they're pretty much safe for maybe the next 2 seasons right now. Yeah,
unless performance takes a huge downfall, or we that and we draft awfully next year, God forbid.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see how any of that stuff can happen. It's not that the Browns can't lose games, but I don't see how this team could possibly fall apart the way Stefanski ran things last year.
Yeah.
He's got things under control. These guys are focused. There's not all these headlines about, guys doing stupid things and guys getting mad about different things. Everything is handled in-house. And what you said about Andrew Berry was so spot on. If he does make a mistake, it seems to work out somehow. Anyways, and I can't even really think of anything big that he's made a mistake on. But not every move's going to be perfect. Not every draft pick's going to be perfect. There could be a pick from the draft this year that doesn't make the team. It's not the end of the world. This team is so good.
Yeah, this team, the team starts, and that's what maybe I won't call it a mistake. Maybe slightly complacent. I feel like we probably should have been a bit more aggressive in the draft because I feel like we probably didn't need as many rookies as we drafted. But maybe that's just my opinion. I'm probably wrong.
No, I'm with you because I was really surprised that they used that many picks. They end up using they picked 7 guys, right? So
I would have been happy with 4 or 5 personally.
I honestly didn't think that they would take any more than 5 guys because I didn't see any more than 4 or 5 rookies making this team. So you never know. I mean, maybe I don't know. I'll still, for some reason, be surprised if 7 rookies make this team. But it's hard to say.
One rookie that we did take, which really is intriguing, I've done a little bit of scouting on it, is the offensive tackle we took, James Hudson out of Cincinnati. Have you seen much of it?
Yeah.
Because basically, the way that I found
Hudson,
pre-draft, because I actually noticed him pre-draft, as bad as that might sound, because I was watching Zaven Collins, because obviously there was quite a lot of rumours that we were going to take Zaven Collins, I want to say maybe around mid to late March time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching some Zaven Collins footage, and I see this guy absolutely mauling Zaven Collins, and it's James Hudson. I'm like, oh, okay, so who's this then? Because this guy is just throwing Zaven Collins about the field, and he looks like his footwork's spot on. Like, he's just defending every type of different move that Collins is doing. And honestly, I'm surprised that he made it as far as he did, because obviously other teams needing pass rushers were going to be watching that footage, and I'm surprised he didn't shoot up teams' draft board.
Well, you know why he made it that far? He didn't have a good pro day, and teams put too much stock in the pro day, not enough in the film. So teams are lazy. Teams show up to his pro day. You didn't look that good. Okay, great.
It's not a real game showing.
Yeah, I mean he's not been playing offensive line for that long. I think only I'm guessing here. I think it's only been a couple seasons because he was a defensive lineman.
Yeah,
but he's got the size, and he's got the I think his reach, his wingspan is a little bit longer than normal, and he's got a bit of a mean streak too, which is not bad,
There's no offensive line coach other than Bill Callahan that I would rather him learn from, because you've got the best of the best there.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we kind of noticed how good he plays even in preseason when he's out there, because in rookie camp, James Hudson was the only offensive lineman there.
Yes, I saw that on building.
You saw that on Building the Browns, and he spent a whole day, just him and whoever else was there with Bill Callahan, I mean, how awesome is that? That he's just working with Bill Callahan one-on-one for however many hours it was that day. I'm like, this is almost not even fair. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were a little bit down on that pick. I'm like, my brother, who's usually on the podcast, was really high on James Hudson, and James Hudson graduated from University of Cincinnati, where my third kid is getting ready to attend. So I'm kind of a fan just because he's going to a school where I've had, 3 kids go. So so I'm definitely rooting for him.
Yeah, it looks like as depth, it's a great pick, and it sounds like a cheap way out, but it almost does give us more negotiating room with contracts, because like if you want to say to like Jack Conklin or Jedrick Wills like far down the line, if you're asking for too much money, like, hey, we've got James Hudson waiting and ready to go. Like,
well, I think that's that's part of the idea, and that's kind of what the Browns need to do is have guys like him ready to go. He doesn't have to start this year, but man, if he's ready to go either next season or the season after, when one of these guys is not around, then man, the Browns are going to be so much ahead of the game if they've got their right tackle or sitting and waiting, and he can also come off the bench in case they need him. Man, they're going to be so far ahead of the game versus having to go into a draft saying, man, I hope a tackle makes it down to number 27 or 29 or wherever the heck they're picking.
Talking of another offensive lineman, what is your opinion on the whole JC Tretter NFLPA situation? Because that's something I've spoke a lot about over the off-season, and how I feel like it's unnecessary attention that could be brought to the Browns. I don't like it one bit.
Well, I think it goes with his position. So I think he has to do what he's doing. He has to stand up for the players. Whether it's all necessary or not, that's probably another question. I think if you look at the Browns as an organization, the Browns support people. The Browns support everybody. So I don't think the Browns have an issue with really anything that J.C. Tretter is going to say or do. So I don't see it as a problem with the Browns. But I just think it's the position that J.C. Tretter is in, and he's, if you look at what he was saying about guys, I presume you're talking primarily about guys attending camps and so forth.
Yes. Yeah.
The thing with that is, I don't know if there's any way to quantify or to really know what kind of effect that has in football. Okay, unless guys come in and they just really don't know what the heck's going on, then you don't know, because you can't tell if injuries are caused by guys being there or not. There's no way to know. So just from watching, I'm trying to think who was talking. It wasn't Tretter. It was it may have been Batonio talking in one of his pressers. Following one of the practices at one of the camps. That for him, it was better for him not to be there, because if you got to come into camp, you got to try to get into shape, for that camp, and if you're not doing the camp, then you're essentially trying to only get into shape like a couple times a year versus yo-yoing all the time to come in and do all these things. And especially with an offensive lineman, it's probably a little bit different, because these guys don't necessarily get up to their playing weight until it's time to come in and play. I mean, I don't know if they all do what Joe Thomas did or not, where some of them are way less in the off season, and then they try to put some weight on before they come in or not. Maybe some of these guys stay around 300, 320 all year round. I'm not sure, but
have you seen the video of Marquise Pouncey, the ex-Steelers centre, playing golf? The guy looks like he's lost like 150 pounds already. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Thomas did that when he was playing. Joe Thomas used to lose, it probably wasn't 150, but I mean, Joe Thomas lost, he would lose 50, 75 pounds in the off season and put it back on before the season when he was playing, and it worked for him.
Yeah.
I don't know if every guy can do that or not. When you're a first ballot Hall of Famer, you do whatever you want,
And if you're willing to put your body through that.
Yeah, but I mean, just from hearing Batonio talk, it sounded like it was easier on his body to not come into camp and just kind of do his own working out and stuff at home in a different way, and then be ready when he got into camp. Of course, with Batonio, you're talking about a guy who's been on the team for a long time.
I've got no issue with Joel at all.
Yeah, so that might not be the same for a guy entering his second or third season.
We're seeing my main issue is, maybe it sounds a bit ignorant, when it's monetary rather than someone like Joel who's doing it for actual performance reasons, as I'd class it. Like, you signed the contract, now, like, show up effectively. Don't hold, like, I understand if you want to hold out, but go the right way about it.
Yeah. The thing with this Browns team is, if guys are going to not come to camp and then show up not in shape, they're not going to be around long. And it almost doesn't matter who you are, unless you're, and there's maybe, and I'm not going to go through the names, but there's maybe 10 guys on this team who would make the team regardless of how they show up. The rest of these guys, man, you show up looking like crap and don't know what you're doing, and it's obvious that you just went home and didn't do anything in the off season and didn't come to camps. Man, see you later. Look for another team, and good luck. There's just too many other guys on this team that want to make this team. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to be, and that goes back to all those defensive linemen too. Guys like Marvin Wilson, who the Browns signed as an undrafted free agent out of college, who they paid a lot of money to, and he's kind of a wild card, and it's like, how's this guy going to show up? Well, you know what? If he wants to make the team, no matter how much they paid him to give him a spot, he better show up in better shape than some of these other guys, and he better play his butt off, or he's still not going to make the team.
To be fair, I do feel quite bad for Marvin Wilson, because basically the issue was that if you want to look back about a year ago, he was a projected first-round pick, but easily. I saw a mock draft where Browns were going to take him at 14. Yeah. And then Florida State asked him to put 30 pounds on, moved him to nose tackle, and his production died. And they've cost him millions and millions of dollars. So, yeah. I mean, he's got his opportunity. Once you're on the team, it doesn't matter whether you're like the first overall pick in the draft or you're undrafted. You've got the same opportunities. Now just go out there and earn it.
Well, as a Browns fan and, as Browns coaches and that, you hope that all these guys that they signed are as motivated as Marvin Wilson should be to come in and say, man, I should have been a first-round pick, and I'm going to show you guys why. Yeah. And because if he does that, he's going to earn a spot.
Oh yeah.
It won't be a problem for him if he's got that kind of talent. But
spots on that defense are going to be up for grabs. Like, there's a few people that interest me who I'm like 50-50. Malik McDowell's one, Mac Wilson's another, Shelby Redwine. There's one more.
Malik McDowell. I mean, yeah, he's going up. He's going up against Marvin Wilson and some of these other guys. It's gonna be a numbers game. It's gonna be a matter of how many defensive tackles they're gonna carry and who the
Yeah.
Browns like. How is Andrew Billings gonna show up? Is he gonna show up 50 pounds overweight?
Yeah.
Versus how Marvin Wilson's gonna show up.
I feel like the only one guaranteed to make the team, there's probably two guaranteed to make the team right now, and it's Malik Jackson and Tommy Togai, the 4th round pick.
I don't know if Togai's guaranteed a spot either. I would think. Jordan Elliott could be guaranteed a spot too. You could look at him because his contract is next to nothing, and he's got
so many defensive tackles. I completely forgot about Jordan Elliott. Like we've got so many.
I mean, there's just so many guys, and I have no idea who's going to make the team at defensive tackle. But to me, I think Jordan Elliott's going to make the team because of his contract and because I think he's going to show up, and I think he's going to be even better than last year. I thought he played decent last year, but I think he's got more talent than what he showed last year. Yeah, so I think he's going to look good. I think Malik Jackson will make the team, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. Beyond those two guys, I kind of hope Andrew Billings shows up and looks good because I think he could be a key asset for the Browns.
Oh yeah, completely. If he shows up and he's in prime form, he's one of the starting two. Because
he has a guaranteed contract, and he's a huge guy. So, yeah. So, and we still haven't even looked at the other guys yet. Togai and Wilson and Malik McDowell. Those guys aren't all making the team, and there's a couple other defensive tackles that we haven't even named yet. I don't know how many guys are going to carry. I have no idea.
I think
but a couple guys are going to get cut that probably don't deserve it.
Or maximum 5, I'd say. And even though I'd say that's heavy.
I would think so. I would think a maximum of 5 because Clowney can slide inside sometimes too.
But then that leaves you, if Clowney's sliding inside, then that leaves you slightly thin on the edge.
Well, I think when Clowney comes inside, then Takk McKinley's out there on the edge, and you're pretty much trying to rush the quarterback a little bit more out of that set. I think that's kind of what's happening there. But
on the edge, you've got Clowney, Garrett, McKinley. You've got Curtis Weaver coming back who we picked up off IR from the Dolphins.
Curtis Weaver's interesting. I think he's either going to look good or bad.
Yeah, I don't think there's much middle ground there. I feel like he's going to come in and show everyone what they were missing, or he's going to come in and flop, and that'll, as bad as it sounds, that'll probably be his NFL career over already.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, he's if he's healthy and he's either going to come in healthy, and I guess there's still a question of whether he can play in the NFL or not. So if he comes in healthy, he'll have to show he can play in the NFL, and if he does, he's probably got a good shot at taking that 4th defensive end spot. I would think.
Compared to what the consensus is, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's definitely Weaver's definitely one guy I want to see in preseason. You mentioned Mac Wilson. We just got to see at linebacker. That's another spot where they've got quite a few guys there, and you have to feel like there's going to be a lot of times where there's only 2 linebackers on the field. So how many linebackers do they really need to carry? And who's going to make the team?
Well, I think the guaranteed ones are Jacob Phillips and Anthony Walker. I feel like they're the only guaranteed ones. Because Jacob Phillips really impressed me back end of the last season. especially that Steelers game at home, like the playoffs, week 17.
He's got all the tools. Yeah, he's going to be here.
Yeah, obviously JOK is going to make the roster, so that's 3. Taki's probably my 4th, not guaranteed though. I feel like I'm missing someone again, apart from Matt Wilson, obviously.
Well, and Mac Wilson and Malcolm Smith would be the other one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. I might be forgetting somebody too.
Mac Wilson is my bottom one on that list because I just don't see it. I just don't see.
Mac looked pretty good as a rookie. You know, he didn't set the world on fire, but he made some nice plays and he played hard. I think we got to see who shows up, but I think you're right. I think he's got kind of an uphill climb because we're forgetting about the and his name is eluding me right now. The guy they drafted, the linebacker, the other linebacker they drafted. Who's probably going to play special teams this year. And I'm going to obviously go back through my notes to look for his name because, you know, like I said on the last show, there's too many guys on this bet on this.
I'm about to try and pull up his name.
Yeah.
Tony Fields.
Yeah, Tony Fields. So Tony Fields is probably going to make the team. You know, he'll probably play special teams this year, but you know, and don't know. But I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about him. We'll see how he looks. I don't know if he's going to play much linebacker at all this year, but probably special teams guy and trying to work his way into a spot eventually. So I think the Browns probably feel like they got something good in him. So you know, for the defense they play, I think he's got good speed too, and you know, I think we'll kind of see how that works out for him.
So change of direction on the tape, like he doesn't get duped out easily, which could be big if you're playing. If you, let's say we have injuries and you are up against Lamar Jackson in that game, he's not going to get put on the floor, basically. So that's a bit I can take from that. But when it goes back to Matt Wilson, he just kind of a land on your feet kind of guy. Like, even if we do cut him, he just sounds like the kind of guy who's just going to bounce around practice squads until he's probably mid-30s and just somehow still make a decent amount of money. Like, I feel like
I think Mac will find a job somewhere. Yeah, I think he will. He's too young and probably, you know, well thought of enough to get another shot someplace, you know.
There is potential there. I don't know. There's just something missing.
You have to figure that quite a few of the guys that are cut from the Browns are going to find jobs, and it's not going to be everybody who's cut from the 90-man roster down to the 53 is going to find a job. But you know, those last 10, 15, 20 cuts, and they're going to be cutting some really good players, guys who are going to go and you know, some of them are going to start for other teams, and some of them are going to be, you know, the first backup for other guys. Definitely
Texans. They
Texans
love old Browns players at this point. I feel like they've got about. I think I saw somewhere they've got about 12 players on their roster who've played for the Browns in like the last 4 years.
Well, they may add another 12 this season. You never know.
I'm trying to think who they took. I know that they've got Vincent Taylor, the defensive tackle from us, who played last year. More of a depth guy. I know there's at least 2 more that I'm missing. I'm really bad with names today. But
they got a bunch of guys. Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's harder and harder to keep up because guys bounce around more and more. But yeah, I know they've got quite a few. So, let's talk about one more thing, and then I think we'll get out of here after this, and that's Baker. I know you probably have opinions on Baker, so I want to hear some of them.
Okay.
Baker's contract, first of all, everybody's talking about it. I'm not that worried about it. I think they're going to extend him at some point. So Baker doesn't seem overly worried about it. I think, whatever happens. I guess there's some merit to the thought that the longer you wait, the better, because it gives you more flexibility on money for other guys. But eventually they're going to have to pay Baker. So for you, first, I guess let's get your thoughts on the contract first of all.
The contract, I have no issue waiting. Like, doing it as an urgent priority isn't an issue. Like, there's other guys that I'd rather extend first, but I want them to do it before the Ravens do Lamar, because I feel like whatever number the Ravens give Lamar, Baker's going to want more. And I feel like if you do it before the Ravens do Lamar, then there isn't that solid benchmark. And even a few million that it could save us, that could make the difference in like extending a guy like Teller down the line. That's how crucial that 2 or 3 million could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's not an urgent priority. I would like to at least see things being put into motion by the back end of this season, because I feel like if it does make it to the off season, there isn't at least, like, it's not at least close, then all the rumours start. Is Baker going to be staying in Cleveland? Is there going to be a big free agent quarterback on the market?
Who are we going to sign? Who's out there? Who's coming to Cleveland? Who's been spotted in Cleveland? Is Peyton Manning going to start for the Browns next year?
Ryan Fitzpatrick's gone to Cleveland.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I just don't feel like we need it, and I feel like we've passed that, and I feel like the front office recognises that, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I can see that gets done. Whether it gets done before Lamar or not, I hope so. It's 50-50, because maybe the Ravens aren't quite as focused on that, but we need to get it done before Baker, otherwise his price is going to rise. But I feel like with us, it maybe works that way with expectations, because we're trying to get where they've been. When it comes to Baker as a player, I like the natural progression that we're seeing. He wasn't too confident in the offense early on in the year, but we start to see the natural flow of the offense coming together. I think the Titans game, week 13 or 14, whenever it was, is a perfect example of it. How everything just clicked into place, and we did not put a foot wrong in that first half. Like, that is what the offense needs to be. Obviously, I'm not saying you're going to put up 38 points every week. But
yeah. Do you kind of expect him to pick up where he left off? At the end of last season. I mean, he started playing really, really well. I don't know, about halfway through the season. And
I want this stigma to die down that he started playing well when Odell got injured, because I hate that, because it just isn't true.
Yeah.
He had one of his worst games of his career. No, not one of the worst games of the season, the week after Odell got injured. I can't. Right. Which was the Raiders game at home, that one in awful conditions, the one where you could barely throw it. So I want that stigma to get dropped. Basically, when it comes down to Baker and the offense, I want to see more play action rollouts. Just Stefanski keeps making everything as easy as possible for him, because when your quarterback has everything easy, it makes the whole offense tick, even the running game, as mad as that might sound, because the confidence is flowing. Like, the better the play action system gets, the better the run game's going to go, because obviously there's going to be better handoffs, more deception, And I feel like that was something we were still probably getting used to towards the back end of the season. So we just need to see the natural progression of the offense, and I feel like Baker will combine with that.
How much pressure do you think Baker feels this season? Do you think he is a guy who feels pressure?
Yes, but he doesn't let you see it. Because I feel like he's a leader. He isn't going to let anyone else recognise that he's probably feeling the same that you are, because he wants you to be able to look to him as the calm one, the one that's got everything under control. When in reality, in his head, he's probably just like every other player out there, who's going absolutely crazy in his own mind, thinking, "Oh my God, what is going to happen?" But that's what I like about him, because he's the calm, cool, composed figure in the time of chaos that you can look up to. And I feel like, regardless of ability, every quarterback and every leader needs to be that. Your quarterback has to be someone who your teammates can look to in times of disarray and think, that's what we need to be like. And I feel like that's what our players can do with Baker.
That's why we love Bernie Kosar. Bernie was that guy. Bernie, I think Bernie had very much that same persona. He'd be out there just, cool as a cucumber. Situations didn't get to him. And, very smart guy, and just, he never seemed to get flustered at all. And I think Baker, I don't know if that's the first thing you notice about Baker. I think with Baker, it's almost like, when I think of Baker, I think of the competitiveness a little bit more than the coolness. And with Baker, I almost want somebody to say something to him. like I want at the coin flip somebody to say to Baker that, yeah, you're not shit. We're gonna kick your butt. Yeah, because then I know we're gonna win the game.
It's game on from that point.
Yeah, so a different kind of players, but yeah, I think you're right. I think Baker, if he does feel pressure, definitely he really doesn't show it. So for the season, how much of a difference does or do Baker's numbers matter to you versus? And again, this isn't a brilliant question, because it really comes down to wins and losses. But in the scheme of things, how important are the numbers that Baker puts up this year?
To me, I could not care as long as we're winning. To Baker, I feel like this is the year that they probably matter the most, because it's negotiation year, it's contract year.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're evaluating and you're looking at the stats and you're looking at the numbers which you think line up, that's what it's going to be based off. That's where your money's going to come from, not necessarily wins and losses in a way. Obviously, that will have a contributing factor, but your own personal stats will probably have more influence on your contract negotiations, because that's just the way that it works nowadays. So, to me, as long as we're winning doesn't matter. To Baker, it's probably the most important out of the 4 years he's been here so far.
I agree with you. I agree. And is this the season that Baker sets the Browns' season touchdown record, which is he would have to throw 31. The record is 30 by Brian Sipe, I think, in 79 or 80. I believe it's 79. Think he throws 31?
He did 28 last year, and that was only when he was still picking up the offense. This is the first off-season where he's not had to learn a new offense, as bad as that sounds, and we're going into year 4 of Baker. So if all the offense stay relatively healthy and there aren't any too many gaping holes, or like the wide receiver core doesn't get decimated, or like the offensive line goes down, I think he should be able to do that.
Yeah, it's when I think about that record, the fact that the Browns have a team touchdown record that has stood for 40 plus years, it's simply amazing. I mean, I haven't done this yet, and I really don't want to take the time to do it. But if you think about the passing record for touchdowns for all of the teams in the league, how many teams do you think have a number that's lower than 30? It's probably not many. I mean, guys throw 40 touchdowns now like it's nothing. I mean, a lot of guys, not everybody, but a lot of guys do.
One, maybe two teams maximum.
Yeah. So the Browns have this record that's been around for 40. I would say 42 seasons. So I just feel like it's time. Like Baker's going to throw 30 plus this year and break that record. It's not going to be a huge celebration because it's kind of just matter of fact that Baker should be throwing 30 plus touchdowns a year.
He should be doing that by like week 15, ideally.
I think he could easily do it, but again, it depends how the Browns play and how the defense plays. If the defense plays great to where the Browns are just running the crap out of the ball, he may not need to throw a ton of touchdown passes.
Yeah, but if he doesn't need to throw it, then surely that's a good thing because it means we're in control of the game.
That's right. And like we've said, it comes down to the wins and losses.
All that matters at the end of the day, wins and losses.
Yeah, so I'll give you a chance to give. I think this is going to be the first prediction for the season, and this is way too early to be giving a one-loss prediction. But you kind of alluded to it earlier. Yeah. Do you want to give us a prediction for how many wins the Browns will put up this year, regular season?
I'm gonna say that we go 12-5. 12-5.
It's a little conservative, but I like it. I'd be happy with 12-5. I'd take that right now. Definitely. Well, we've been going a while here, Cameron. I think we'll kind of get on the road to closing this out. So what I would like to do is give you a chance to give the listeners any closing words, anything you want to leave everybody with.
Well, yeah, I just hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on for about an hour and 20 minutes at this point. It's currently 2:56 a.m. on Thursday morning.
That's a long one.
Yeah, it's the middle of the night. It's good. The sun's going to be coming up in about an hour and a half. Yeah, it's time for me to go to bed.
It is. Yeah. Well, this has been fun. Good talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
All right. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.